Hey there guys, so I'm back with another campaign diary for our Dungeons & Dragons game. This is session number 16. Wow. This is the start of our one-on-one games that we're doing. There's some downtime in the campaign, about a month's worth of downtime. And so I wanted to do one-on-one games with each of the characters, each of the players, to find out what their characters have been up to and what they're doing. So, if you are watching this video and you happen to be Cameron or Jed or Steve, stop it now because this episode's not about you and I don't want you to get spoiled for when we all meet back up together. So I'll give you a couple seconds. Cool. Okay. So our lovely tiefling sorcerer cleric, Quick, she wakes up the next morning after Founders Day and has a little conversation with Squall, who is this Air Genasi bard that they met the previous day, who seemed to hit it off really well with Rainier Neverember. It seems that possibly Squall might be interested in taking up the position in the tavern as their new bard, because one of the things their tavern hasn't had has been entertainment. And so they put out a casting call, and Squall's kind of come back, so they're might seem that the tavern might have a bard, an Air Genasi bard who trained in the Feywild for the College of Glamour. So he has some interesting abilities because of his time in the Feywild. After that, Quick previously in the campaign had hired Vincent Trench, the private investigator in Waterdeep, who's secretly a Rakshasa in disguise, to try and find out what happened to her missing family. Her wife and twin children have been missing for about 5 years, and so she hired Vincent Trench to try to figure out where they were. And this is the day that Vincent Trench was going to be leaving. She could hear the wagon kind of passing by her house, where they stay at the tavern, and heading towards the Tiger's Eye, Vincent Trench's business. And a split-second decision, she decides, she runs out, meets up with Vincent Trench and says, "Hey, I want to come with you." And so she collects her belongings and goes with Vincent Trench. It's about a 2 weeks journey out to the plot of land where her and her family lived. It's outside of Secomber, kind of local village, or it's more like a town, by the Delimber River in the Sword Coast. So they head over there. 2 weeks journey. Not too much crazy happens, and they find her plot of land, which has started to become overgrown and started to become unkempt because no one's really been living there. They still find some of the ash, and some of the ground is still stained from when her house was burnt down. The only information that she really knows is that she came home and her house is on fire. She didn't see, her family was gone, and there were some Duergar who were there, who kind of knocked her out and left her to die. And so she knows that Duergar are involved. She, from her kind of the research she's been doing while she's in Waterdeep, understands that there's probably maybe something connected to the Underdark, that Duergar are known slavers to the Underdark. And so her and Vincent Trench do some more research, some more looking around. They decide to head into the Misty Forest, and in there they find this open clearing in the forest, which has this lake with this little island in the center with an obsidian column in the middle of it. So they head out through there. There's some kind of fey-like elk grazing and eating the grass and drinking from the lake. They head through the water. They have to swim through because it's a large body of water. It's about like 75 feet across to get to the island. And so they're making their way through, and they get attacked by two Sahuagin. I believe that's how they're pronounced. These mer creatures. They're able to dispatch them quite easily, though, because at the end of the day, Vincent Trench is a Rakshasa, so not too many things right now are really going to give them trouble. They touch this obsidian, this column that's in the middle of this lake, and it's radiating this cold energy. So Quick casts some fire magic on it, and it absorbs the magic. And she casts a ray of frost on it, and the ice magic actually reverts back and hits her. So she casts a couple of other spells which seem to just absorb into this obsidian column. And she does some more investigating and finds that some of the runes actually recess in. And so she clicks the runes in place, and then the column begins receding into the ground. It's interesting because once the column actually reaches the ground, it's hollow and it becomes like a slide. I'm sorry, I'm still dealing with some good old-fashioned sinus and allergy issues, but it's all good. So it becomes a slide. So her and Vincent Trench go down and reach this just tunnels, just this connection, this cavernous system of tunnels, and they begin investigating. They begin making their way through, and they're down there for another week of just walking around and going through these systems and trying to find some sort of evidence of creatures or beings or something. They're able to find this used campsite. It seems like maybe a day old. There's some leftover soup. There's a little tent. There's a bedroll, and there's ripped up papers that they're not like finely shredded. They're just kind of large tears. So Quick pieces them back together and written over and over and over and over and over again. It's just find them. So she casts mending and kind of keeps that on her. And she hears what sounds like combat happening in another tunnel. Decides to disregard that, continues following, reaches another kind of open cavern of many different systems and hears the combat coming again. And so she decides to head down that way, finds this cloaked individual who's fighting some giant spiders and an ettercap, which is kind of a larger, more humanoid spider creature. This combat happens fairly quickly. Being a sorcerer cleric and being able to twin guiding bolt is pretty dope and does a lot of damage. So Quick and Vincent Trench assist with dispatching these spider creatures. And they try to talk and communicate with this cloaked figure who does not want anything to do with them. It seems that this person has been down here for a very long time and keeps on like muttering to themselves, just like this is a trick, another one of their tricks, and just begins walking away. Quick casts a Cure Wounds on this individual, and they push Quick away. And at that time, reaches into their component pouch, pours some phosphorus on their hand, and makes a wall of fire between the two of them. And as they're doing that, the hood kind of flies up, and Quick sees her wife that she hasn't seen for 5 years, that she's presumed dead. That she sees her wife, who did not have magical capabilities before, who was casting a wall of fire between them. Quick jumps through the fire, taking a buttload of, taking some damage, but being a tiefling, she's resistant to fire damage, so it's not too bad. And begins making chase after her wife. Aurora, the half-elf woman, she begins running away. Quick has Expeditious Retreat already activated though, and so is catching up to her, tackles Aurora with a natural 20 for her strength check, and has her kind of pinned down, hopefully so that she can't cast any spells. But Dimension Door is a verbal spell, and so Aurora mutters some arcane words and disappears into some direction. Quick just begins running around for hours, just yelling and just trying to find her, but to no avail. Then Vincent Trench suggests, he says, hey, look, we only had enough rations for a month. We know that she's here. We know that she's here. This is good news. We know that she's alive, and we know that where she is. Maybe we should go back to Waterdeep, and we should get your friends, and we should come back, because obviously there are more dangers here. We need to be more prepared. something bad's gonna, if we just stay down here, it's not gonna work. He does suggest that he can go by himself if she does feel like she has to stay, and after a moment or two of evaluating her situation, she decides to leave. And so Quick and Vincent Trench head back to Waterdeep to get the party together and continue the search for her lost family. And now we're gonna jump into my side, the DM side of things. And man, I was not expecting things to go where they did. I had plans, obviously. I knew the next big arc I wanted was the search for Quick's family, because I'd been seeding this idea of the Underdark, and there's things happening in the Underdark. Vincent Trench actually mentions that it seems that children of draconic bloodline sorcerers have been being kidnapped over the past 5 years. Interesting to note, the Quick's children are not her natural born children. They are Aurora's natural born children. However, ostensibly, Duergar wouldn't know that. They just would have heard about a family with a draconic bloodline sorcerer with children, and so that's maybe an idea of why they would have gone after them. However, there's been no real evidence or anything to suggest that that's why they were kidnapped. They also could have just been right time, right place, or wrong time, wrong place, honestly. But yeah, I was curious because this whole one-on-one session depended on if Quick decides to leave with Vincent Trench. If Quick didn't decide to leave with Vincent Trench, she would just hang out in Waterdeep and spend some of the money that she got from the dragon heist and probably run the tavern some, hang out with her friends. And Vincent Trench would have returned with information, not as much information as they got this session, but some information that would have led them to the Misty Forest. So with her actually going, we were actually able to role play that out and to do some checks and to just talk over what happened. And so I thought it was very interesting. Some stuff I didn't really have planned out. Like when I started describing this obsidian column that was in the middle of this clearing, this lake in the Misty Forest. I didn't really have a plan for how that puzzle was going to work out. I was running by the classic Dungeon Master technique of when the player gives you an answer that seems plausible enough, that's it. And so she started casting different spells, and I'm like, well, if you kept on casting the fire spell, like if she kept on casting fire stuff, I probably would have said that it absorbs it until it heats up and then it recedes down. But she started casting different types of magic. And so Vincent Trench suggested, hey, do you have any sort of traveling, like any sort of dimension hopping or a knock spell or anything that opens things? Because I've searched, oh gosh, I apologize for all of this, but any sort of a spell that can open things. Because ideally, it absorbs that and then it opens, but she didn't have anything prepared. So eventually it just became the recesses in this the rune recesses, which I think still worked out. And I didn't have too much I know I wanted to go to the Underdark, and that's where we wanted to eventually head, but I did not have a lot of Underdark stuff planned. So this cavern system, ideally they're not in the Underdark yet. They're traveling down, and they're still just in the system of tunnels that the Duergar use to kind of transport to and from the Underdark to the material plane. And so that's these are basically the roads, the service roads that the Duergar use. And I didn't have, I already had a plan for Quick's wife. I knew that Quick was going to run into her wife first, and she spent the last 5 years underground. Part of that time as a slave in the work camps for the Duergar, and part of that time escaped and fighting her way to try to find where her children are, because she was separated from her children when they were kidnapped. And so it'll be very interesting to see where that goes, because she is kind of has a struck of madness in her right now. She's been underground for 5 years. She's had mind flayers and creatures messing with her brain. She's come into magical powers of her own somehow. Which is interesting because when Quick last saw her wife, she was just a regular person. She didn't have any arcane means. So somehow within 5 years she's gained access to the arcane, which I already know how, but I'm not gonna spoil that just yet. I'm gonna keep that one close to my chest because that's something I'm very proud of. I've made her character sheet already, and I mean, I love her already because I think she's just super dope, and I love her abilities and everything that I've given her. But yeah, this session was going to go very interesting depending on what Lauren, who plays Quick, decided to do. If she decided to go on this hunt for her children herself, or if she decided not to. And so, I think having her go, I think I probably could have teased it out a little bit more. I did drop the you ran into your wife bomb kind of early. I could have probably had left that maybe she goes down there and they don't really find anything and then they go back to Waterdeep, but I knew that Quick would need like a real surefire thing. It's been 5 years, and so just a hint of something I don't think would have been enough. So I think she needed that definite answer of this is a definite yes for her to feel empowered to come back and to definitely go down here, because this cave of systems is huge, and going to the Underdark is such a long journey that on a whim to say, hey guys, can we just travel down here for weeks and months on end and hope that we see something or find them, I don't think was going to be good enough. So I decided to pull that cord a little bit early, but I think it was a dramatic way for it to happen, especially because I had the visual of the wall of fire separating them, but then her just jumping through and running after her, and her also having Expeditious Retreat still cast, really made that encounter interesting, because ideally, because Quick multiclassed, she doesn't have access to Counterspell yet. So she could have, if she had never multiclassed, had access to Counterspell the Dimension Door, and then Aurora would have been stuck. And then that would have completely changed how the encounter and how all of that went. But because Quick multiclassed, and because she didn't have access to Counterspell, and because Dimension Door is a verbal spell, and I only had Aurora doing cantrips and using her hand axe in the previous encounter with the spiders, she had that spell available, and she was able to speak, and so Dimension Door was able to happen. Because I just didn't think that she would believe that her wife, who she hasn't seen in 5 years, would suddenly just show up randomly in this this system cave, when she hasn't seen her in 5 years, and she's been tricked and manipulated with the image and idea of her wife, has been used against her. Oh my gosh, has been used against her in these caves. She wouldn't just believe that her wife has found her. So it'll be interesting, the hunt for Aurora and then the hunt for the children as they head deeper into the Underdark. And it's going to be crazy. It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see how the other one-on-one games go. To see what the other characters, what their ideas for what they want to happen during this month-long downtime. It's going to be a little bit longer than a month, because by the time Quick left the caves and was heading back to Waterdeep, it was like the 4th week. So she'll probably be a week or two. So it'll be a little bit past a month. But I'm excited to see what the other characters want to do and how those things are going to be able to be seeded later on. Because I already have some ideas for their storylines, and it seems like after our next big adventure is an Underdark adventure, which I'm very excited about because I love the Underdark and I love like Underdark culture and all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to see where things go, and I'm very happy with how I was able to use the backstory that my PCs gave me to ruin their day and wreck their emotions and their lives. But to also just create a great story together. That's really the main important part. As much as I love having my players yell at me after the game is done because they're like, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you brought my wife back with magic powers. And she has been stuck underground for 5 years. But, that's just the things that happen in Dungeons & Dragons. So, anyway, this has been great. Next week, we still got to decide who's doing a game, but it's going to be another one-on-one game. And so I'm very interested to see where the other characters' stories proceed. And that's all. I'll see you later.